Why has it become controversial to simply say the truth? According to a King's College London study, Britain is one of the least racist countries in the world. Yeah, you heard it, one of the least racist countries in the world. But that's not the narrative that the left would have you believe. Now, there are absolutely racial disparities to close in healthcare, in employment, in education, in policing. But just 2% of Brits would be unhappy to live next to someone of a different race. We also have some of the most accepting attitudes towards religious minorities and gay people. As Margaret Thatcher might say, just rejoice at that news. Now, there is progress to make, but I'm British, I'm black, I'm gay, and there's no other country in the world I'd rather live in than the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. So, why is it that it's so difficult for the left just to take a win?
That's it.
There you go. Strong stuff.
So, Benjamin, I do want to ask you about the last point that I made, because it has become almost dirty on the left to say that Britain is a less racist country now than it was in the past, but there are still disparities to close. You almost have to say Britain is racist. You can't say that any progress has been made, otherwise people jump down your throat. Why do you think that is?
But look, I don't accept the framing of your question in the first place, which is the idea that, in your case of your pitch, that we should be grateful that it's the least racist place, or it's the least homophobic place, for example. I think that actually, for a lot of people who might face prejudice, who might face barriers, who might face judgments in their day-to-day lives, when they're facing those barriers because they're black or another description, it doesn't matter that it's less bad than some other countries. That means that they are right when they stand up and say that they have a racist problem in this country.
I didn't say there wasn't a racist problem in the country. I did say that there were racial disparities to close in those important areas which I highlighted. My question was...
Is that evidence of racism?
Well, in some cases, I think if you look at, let's take a disparity in policing, for example, actually the Conservative Party has done some amazing work on stop and search disparities. So I think 2 years ago, the stop and search disparity between black men and white men was almost 9, and they brought that disparity down to just under 5. So that is a huge cut in the likelihood of you getting stopped and searched as a black person versus a white person in 2 years' time. Now, you could argue, some could make the argument that that disparity is as a result of racism. If you look at some healthcare disparities, for example, there are literally some medical pieces of equipment that would work better on your skin than my skin because of the way that it's been designed. Some people would ask that was racist, and some of the disparities in healthcare that we see are racist. So, yes, I do think sometimes disparity can equal racism, but it doesn't always equal racism. But, Darren, do you think there is any truth in people who say, despite what I have said, that Britain has become less open and tolerant since Brexit?
No, that's absolute nonsense. No, I think that since Brexit there has been a push from the grievance industry to actually report hate crimes more than ever. I mean, Sadiq Khan had a big campaign, for example. I don't think there is any evidence whatsoever that Britain has become more intolerant. And actually, I disagree with you on stop and search as well, because I think the evidence suggests that stop and search works. Cressida Dick, when she was head of the Metropolitan Police, actually defended it quite robustly, and I think she was right to do so, because it's saving lives in London, in which knife crime is spiking like you wouldn't believe. Black mothers, for example, are being interviewed all the time.
When did I say I was against stop and search?
You said that the fact of the matter is that stop and search is balanced now between white and black.
I didn't say it was balanced. I said the disparity was
smaller. You said that was getting better. I didn't say
I was anti-stop and search, and that's, I think, what you thought I had said. Emily, what do you think about whether or not people answering this survey are actually answering honestly? If you didn't want to live next to someone of a different race, would you really admit that in a survey? So can we trust this data?
Well, I think surveys can always be taken with a pinch of salt. I know people who fill in these YouGov surveys and they just fill in whatever box and they get their 10 quid at the end. But this kind of survey is better than asking someone, if you ask someone straight on, are you a racist? They're obviously going to say no. This is a little bit more clever by asking, would you be happy to live next to someone of a different race? But even so, I do think that there will be people who will, write what isn't exactly true. So they might wish to appear less racist, even though it's anonymous, so it's probably safer than another survey where you put your name and contact details and everything else. But I think it does show overwhelmingly that people are tolerant. I think people's issues with immigration and things like that rising in such a way, I don't think that should be equated with racism. I think we hear this a lot. Oh, you don't like too much immigration, therefore you must be a racist.
Yeah,
I think those concerns need to be heard, and people shouldn't be labelled as a racist. And that's what happened with Brexit.
I do think language is important. Leo, I'm interested to know what you think about this, because why is it that there are some people on the right who seem so resistant to even using the word racism to describe a phenomenon that we see in society? Why is it so hard for some on the right to say that's racist and that's unacceptable?
No, I've got no problem calling out racism. I mean, just today I saw a cartoon in The Guardian that was deeply anti-Semitic, and I see a lot of anti-Semitism on the left, you know, particularly among Momentum and cranks like that. But yeah, I mean, I don't think that. I think if people seem to see the right as the natural home of racism, I think maybe 50 years ago that might have been true, but not anymore. I mean, look at the current Tory party. They've got the most racially diverse cabinet in UK history, showing that skin colour is no barrier to forming a lacklustre government.
Benjamin, why do you think that it's difficult for some people on the right to describe things as racist? Because I do think that is something which frustrates me personally. I think people on the right find it difficult to describe things as racist. Why do you think that is?
There are a lot of white people in this country who, when Britain's history or racial disparities are raised, take it as some kind of personal affront and are not willing to recognise those issues.
But quite often it is a personal attack. There's all these books that are, you know, devoted to abolishing whiteness.
Well, hang on. You know, you just talked about the fact that we have many ethnic minority people in the cabinet, which, on the one hand, is certainly a good thing. And yet you have a situation where white people from Ukraine can come straight into a refugee scheme in this country, but non-white people overwhelmingly from Yemen, from Afghanistan.
What about men?
That's a war on our continent.
They have no legal...
That's a war on our continent that we're involved in.
If that isn't institutional racism, I don't know what...
What about all of the people that are...